What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 279 of Littleroot Lessons. I'm your host, Ro, and this week I'm joined by two new-time guest hosts, CJ and Calvin. How are you two?
Hello, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous, and I'm ready to talk about Pokemon.
I'm here to do one of those things. I'm Calvin, though.
As listeners of the podcast know, or at least I've mentioned CJ and Calvin previously, Calvin did top cut Atlanta. CJ is one of our absolutely excellent tournament organizers and judges in the New England area, part of the building group I'm in, and with both Carl and Carter out of state on vacation, decided to go back into the well and get some new co-hosts to cover a few of the bigger grassroots tournaments that have occurred in the last 2 weeks. Last week, of course, Carl and Carter covered a lot of the changes that have been announced for the 25-26 season, and they weren't really able to dive into any of the actual mons that were able to be played. Before we get into the tournament, because I haven't been able to say any of my thoughts, and I know this is kind of throwing both of you out there. What are your general thoughts on just the general changes being made? The higher cap, the regional locations, the GC changes, so on and so forth.
The locations are wild. Getting a Vegas regional is insane. Am I going? No. Do I wish that I could? Yes.
I kind of can't believe that we got a Vegas regional, not gonna lie. That's so crazy to me.
I think that it's going to be a very interesting season. I think the fact that they kept the top 80 or top 75, not kept, you know what I mean. The fact that they're keeping it as that sort of system, I'll be honest, I don't think is terrible. I think it is letting less people in, but I think it sort of is making Worlds a bit more of a spectacle for the average viewer, which I think is probably TPCI's goal for the most part, even if it doesn't make as many of the players happy, which I understand being dissatisfied with it for that reason. But I think it's going to make it so that Worlds is truly going to be an incredible event. And I'm very much looking forward to this year's Worlds. I'm super, super excited.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right in the head. It's when they made the change from 300 to 500 points 2 years ago, it was because I think 115 people got in, and they don't really want more than 100 in the US or North American region and Europe. So let's put it to 500, and then well over to almost double the number of people made it. The 2024 season had the most qualified players, and there were cases of players who again, winning tournaments is winning tournaments, but in cases of farming bad areas with bad locals and then just squeaking out a couple GCs, when there's stories going out, it's this player at every major they went to couldn't win more than 4 games, but they're at Worlds. It didn't really sit right with a lot of people, and especially doesn't sit right with DPCI. And so yeah, they want the smaller group. I think the only change with the ratings, I would have either made it even a little more, maybe 100 people instead of 80. 80 feels like a weird number. And the other thing I would be interested in is in the event of a double invite. For example, Wolfe Glick getting the invite by winning Toronto and then getting another invite by top 4 in EYC.
Yeah.
That's kicked down to 5th place, or there's some sort of tiebreaker. And yeah, maybe it's behind the scenes you're having the players in the top 8, you're playing to get that official 5th spot, or you just use your regular breakers to decide 5th place. But something like that I think would have been a nice change. One thing I really like is the change to GCs, making them region-based. We've had this before, back in 2020, 2021, the Players' Cups. The online tournaments, all of the rankings were done region-based, North America, Europe, so on and so forth. So returning to that means that you can really gun it and play it, and you can probably finish a little higher than, points-wise, your finish will be higher than what your actual placement finish is. It also does make the GCs even more important than they were this past season, because there will be people who, yeah, maybe they come in third place, but or like even like 10th place, but they're the top player in their region, and that is a significant amount of points. So it does make these tournaments more important, even though, and for the winners, but for people, I'll say people like me who sometimes are like, I can scrape in like a 512 if I'm having a really good day. Yeah, maybe that 512 is now a 256, and so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think that the changes to the GCs are overall positive. I think that there are some negative downsides. I think the fact that they are now as important as they are is a little bit of a downside, because I think that it goes a little hand in hand with the thing you were mentioning before about the people farming locals in like less strong areas. It kind of allows for a similar amount of that, where obviously not most people are doing that. Not most people were doing that in the 2023 season, and most people do not do that. However, there will be a few people who are able to get a primary amount of their invite purely off of the GCs. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, because as we see, the GC has a very similar format to what a lot of the APAC events use. But I think that in terms of that, having these big events that now apply to every region so significantly, having them be a format that is different than what is played in any of the official formats, I think is going to be an interesting change in terms of the importance of the GCs on this next season.
Yeah, and that is one of the things, like with the GCs, we've said this a lot. Pre-open team sheet, the GCs actually kind of meant something because you were always playing closed team sheet, and so the way you would just play it in a best of one format is think of it, okay, whatever I can learn or apply here, that is applied to like game one of whatever best of three I'm playing. And now there really isn't any sort of, like, it isn't apples to oranges game. The GCs play differently. The sets and the way you would pick your Pokemon are different. Certain moves or certain move sets, or even just item choices, even on common Pokemon like an Urshifu, you might change that up because now you actually have that surprise aspect.
Exactly, and the return of CTS, I think, is something that a lot of older players would also herald a little bit. I think there's a lot of players that have been kind of talking, saying like, I miss CTS. CTS days were so much more fun. It was such a different game, and I think that's a very good point. But if you're looking to get your CTS fix right now, go on the Ruins of Alph ladder, the 2018 ladder this month, baby. VGC 2018, best format ever made. Go play it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I've actually been playing a little bit of the 2018 format. Grabbed the James Beck team, Triple Fairy with Komao and Belly Drum Azumarill. Awesome. Great. Love it. Oh my god, I miss the Tapu so much.
I was literally just about to say, any meta where the Tapus are legal is a healthy meta. So
yeah, the Tapus and honestly, I miss the Ultra Beasts. If I even say what I would do to get like the Tapus and Ultra Beasts back, not actually do it, just say it, I would be imprisoned for decades. You would never see me again.
And worse, it would be demonetized. So can't even do that.
But yeah, it's that. That is another little thing. Just mentioning it. VGC 2018 is the retro format for Pokemon Showdown. Calvin, I know you're very, very involved with the Spogon group, so thank you for having that. Maybe you can try to make them just keep that full time, or at least extra month or so,
I was super excited when they brought back the 2013 ladder a couple months ago, when they made that the Ruins of Alph for the month. So the issue is they don't always make the Ruins of Alph just like a VGC format. It'll often be like other like Smogon formats that have come in the past. And I think the thing that makes a Ruins of Alph ladder so exciting is the fact that we only get it for a month. I think if the 2018 ladder stayed up for like 3-4 months, I think after the first 2 months, the people on the ladder would just dwindle significantly. So I think that the way they do it is honestly really fun. And like, while I am going to miss not having an outlet for it after, I think it's still really nice to have it for a bit. And I think the especially nice thing is I think it's getting other people to start running their own like limitless tournaments that are more based around earlier formats. My friend has been running throwback tournaments to the prior regulations from Scarlet and Violet, with running 2 Reg A tournaments last week, and then he's going to be running some Reg B tournaments, then C, D, so on and so forth. And that's also been so much fun to just go back. Now that's only 2 years in the past. But just even getting to like relive things, because I think a lot of people started VGC at the beginning of Scarlet Violet. So being able to go back to sort of their start, their equinox of VGC is really exciting. And I really appreciate that people are putting these community oriented focus on getting people, back into what they loved if they're not loving this current format as much.
Yeah, especially because if you aren't going to Worlds, we are technically already in the new season. 6 days, we are.
Not for VGC, baby.
Nope.
Not until September.
And so I know next for us specifically, or I'm not playing in it, but like in general, don't give me that look, Calvin. You'll see me in September.
Sure I will.
Maybe earlier. Who can say? Actually, you probably won't see me in September. I'm going to spend half of it in Alaska. But
proving our point, like you're digging yourself a hole. You're proving our point that you don't come to locals. So,
anyways. If like while the season has started, if you aren't playing in Worlds, like we have some smaller local events that our own TOs put on. They put up their time, their money. It's them doing this. It's not the Pokemon Company. But if you don't have that scene and you aren't going to Worlds, there's no reason to even look at Regulation I at all, unless they announce on August 1st that it's continuing through the fall. And
which is possible.
Yeah. Which is also kind of nice when we have a situation with like the Ruins of Al format, like bringing back an older format just to give people something else to do. And I know that with that being said, there are still people who are focusing on this format, whether it's Worlds Prep or they still just want to play with these super broken restricted Pokemon. And in the last 2 weeks, we've had 3 really large tournaments. And we're actually going to start with one that was for a very good cause, and that being the St. Jude tournament. The 3rd annual St. Jude tournament, which I have up on your screen now.
Oh, serve. Okay.
Yep.
I would also like to shout out 2 New England locals in top 4.
Yep.
Now, come on now.
Yeah, I know. Jamie Mancini and Dr. Aaron Trailer in 2nd and 3rd place.
Indeed.
And then you have the Me Hunter in 1st place, Brian Collins, the man who made me change my name. And Brian's team, this is something that we talked about on the pod during NAIC coverage. This 6 is a 6 that was built, I believe. Oh my god, who was it? One of the
Ashton Cox.
Thank you, Ashton Cox.
And Bruno.
Yep, Ashton Cox brought it. Bruno brought it. I believe there were 6 players who took.
Yeah, Bruno was crediting Ashton as the person who made it. Just to note. Bruno also brought it and was a part of it, but I think Ashton did make the overall structure. If I'm wrong, come at me in the comments. Tell me. Get in the comments.
Yeah, I think everyone.
Bully us in the comments, because then it boosts us up in the algorithm.
Yes, it does. Okay, before we get this an aside, okay, so there was this person when Carl had his daughter, and Jay and I took over along with Carter as as a 3-person show instead of the 2. There was a person who kept on going and saying how Jay and I were like these NPC guests, and it's like, where's the real host and everything. And so for 2 or 3 solid months I would see that, and then I go and look at, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to click on this guy's channel, like what is he? And I see like Deerfield Park, and I'm like, huh. And I look at him like, that's the park that was like, a mile down the street from where I grew up, and this guy is from the same town that I grew up in, and was like complaining. I'm like, you know what, buddy? I was like, I said on the phone, like, I know where you live. Not actually, but like generally. And no more complaints.
Yeah,
but
sorry, that's my bad. I didn't realize that would have such a lasting effect on you.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, I was like, I'm getting shit talked by a fucking New Englander. And I'm like, do it to my face. Show up to an event that I can just skip out on. Because I apparently don't like you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I do like this team, though. And it is a very, like... So, like, this group especially, Brian Collins, Bruno, mostly they're known for their Trick Room strategies. And even more than that, I think they're known for just not liking to click the move Protect. So, of course, having a team with only one Protect makes so much sense for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the real strength of this team is that it is very obvious what it's trying to do. And that's just have three, pardon my French, three motherfuckers with some big moves just hitting you while the Whimsicott's just making you cry. And the Whimsicott is just sitting there hitting Fake Tears, Tailwind, Encore, and then everybody else on the team is just sitting there just using laser beams to just burn holes in your retinas to make sure you can't look at your game ever again. And then, like, if that's not enough, if you have a CIR or something, then you just have like an Iron Hands and a Smeargle. You put that motherfucker to sleep and you fucking bah! That's all you got to do. This team, it's so strong in so many ways. And I know there are people that are not fans of this team. Like our good friend Rockwell insists that it was a very strong meta call into NAIC, but it won't have lasting effects. And he's not entirely wrong. It was very strong into the NAIC meta, and there are certain teams that do kind of, as they say, put it on a t-shirt. But really, like, this team has some very, very strong matchups that it does really, really well into. And it is sort of one of those teams where if you just don't pull like the one or two kind of iffy matchups for it, you can hit stuff for days. It does well.
I believe Junie played Bruno in day 2 and lost to the 6. And Bruno told her that's like, yeah, we built this team and we're like, okay, CIR Miraidon is going to be a 90-10 matchup in our favor, and that was part of like the building behind it. There's not much that, and Miraidon CIR is one of the top pairings that people should be preparing for Worlds, and to have a team that has as close to an auto win as you can think of in this format, that's pretty important to have into like the team that you're probably going to that you could see 30-40% of your games against. One of the things with Terapagos, now Terapagos is a Pokemon that I think is controversial. We've saw a lot of relative success with it in Regulation G, and even early parts of Reg I using the Combine set, that Balancy team with Screamtail was popping up in Reg G. Then when Reg I switched over, it kept on doing the setup mode. But instead of having a Screamtail, it had a Calyrex, which was pretty much on that team a Screamtail that clicked Astral Barrage as well. We never really saw it with the specs, and having Terapagos, the 2 times Terapagos did really, really well in Regulation G Part 1 in the US was when it was running the spec set, when you didn't have to set up, you had that immediate go button that I think a lot of the other restricteds have and Terapagos doesn't have.
And that was all the way back at like Indy, I think especially. Yeah. That was like early Reg G when the Specs Terapagos was like really doing much. And I remember like I was a very, very early adopter of Terapagos. I was using the Calm Mindset very, very early on into Reg G, finding a lot of success with it. But then I just sort of hit a wall very suddenly where it felt like so many teams had really strong answers for it. So then I started using the Specs one, but then I kind of found similar issues. I think in Reg G, the spec set just really wasn't able to keep up for the most part because you needed your restricted to be so standalone for the most part, able to sort of hold its own and not require as much support. And the Specs Terapagos just really couldn't get there for the most part. But that's why I think this team is so inventive, because you're kind of just saying, okay, this is a team with Calyrex Shadow Rider, Chi-Yu, a very tried and true pairing in Reg I and Reg G so far. Very, very strong together. They cover each other pretty well. Chi-Yu can beat out opposing CSRs for your own CSR, etc. And they're kind of just saying, what's another restricted that uses special attacks that isn't a Miraidon? And then they put a Terapagos on it. And damn if it didn't do well.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things with the Terapagos, the Terapagos does give you weather control. It gives you terrain control when you make that Terra into the Stellar Terra form. You have a attack that is able to hit both of your opponent's Pokemon, can't be resisted. If you Terra into it, you're hidden super effective. And then you also have some insane coverage moves. You get the Stellar boost for that Dark Pulse the first time you use it, for the Earth Power the time you use it, for the Dazzling Gleam. And that's not something people are really calcing for. And so you're going to be able to get a surprise KO the first time you're using these moves. And then, again, you can start adding on the multipliers. The Beads of Ruin, the Fake Tears, like you're able to do so much. The Decorate with Spirit.
Decorate, yeah.
Is another thing. For WolfeyVGC fans who have watched, I think it was this video 2 or 3 weeks ago where he did the mono normal run. And he's like, yeah, just Decorate, Specs, Terra, Starstorm. It's like, that's the thing that helps it Terapagos get going, and it does give the Pokemon that go mode. And Terapagos having the go mode is something that we're going to be talking about later in the podcast. But before then, we should talk about a few of the other teams. Let's go to Jamie Mancini.
I think the thing that was so interesting about the St. Jude tournament in general to me, just looking at all of the teams that were there is a strong amount of variety in these teams. We are seeing a wide variety of pairings. Obviously, there's a good few Miraidons, there's a good few CSRs, good few CIRs, but it's not all just CSR Zama, Mirai, CIR. We're seeing a good bit of variance here, and I think that was very cool for something that, because the Victory Road tournament was happening at the same time, and I do think there were a few more people maybe taking the Victory Road one a little bit more seriously, so as to put it, so they were running more of their, strict meta teams, but this, I think, allowed for a very interesting glimpse, where we see, for instance, Adi running Groudon Zamazenta, placing ninth with it. The pairing that I think we have not and will not see again, because that's not that good.
No, it's especially with the Assault Vest. I think it's more so just because in the grand scheme of things, if you want a fighting type and a Sunsetter, you just play Koraidon, and then you get another restricted while doing so. Also seeing the Groudon as an Assault Vest variant, it does make sense. We are a very heavily special meta, so the vest is really good with Groudon. At the same time, you are just begging to be Intimidate cycled into high hell. But for this team specifically, you have a lot of Pokemon that love being in the sun, specifically the Walking Wake, the Fluttermane, and the Volcarona. And we are going to see a lot of these Volcarona that want to be bulky, whether on this team it's with the leftovers, but there's other ways for the Volcarona to get that bulk. Set up the Quiver Dance. This is a Pokemon that can be that third restricted itself in certain matchups, especially after a Quiver Dance or two, where it's too fast, it hits too hard, and it can't get knocked out because of how bulky it is. And it just keeps on recovering with the Giga Drain and or the leftovers. So that's a really cool way to run this team and to approach this. Groudon always just it's just not as good in Generation 9. It finally hit the wall, or went a little off the cliff. It can still be a threatening Pokemon when you hit your P-Blades and when you hit that Stone Edge that Audi added, because apparently praying for a P-Blades just isn't enough. He just needs that extra Gambler's Edge.
You look at the rest of this team, you say, what is it doing to Ho-Oh? You realize you kind of need Stone Edge on Groudon to deal with Ho-Oh. That's...
Remember when, Ho-Oh was a Pokemon?
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah,
crazy.
For a lot of the start of Reg I, people were like, Ho-Oh's so broken. And then the next event happened, and then Ho-Oh just completely
disappeared.
All over
Yeah.
I couldn't say anything bad about it because I have a bad track record at talking trash on Gen 2 Pokemon that know Sacred Fire. Even though that the Entei, that Entei didn't do anything for the rest of Reg F, I still have that one. God forbid I put it in B tier in the initial list. I'm never going to live it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we were saying, there's a lot of different combos. Jam's team, just to really go through second place, this is just the standard Lunala Miraidon team that is a tried and true winner. 1 NAIC, 1 Milwaukee. Believe this 6 also won Japan Nats.
I believe you're right. And just a bit of foreshadowing, this is not going to be the last you see of this.
Probably not.
That team is just incredibly strong. I mean, it's just an adaptation of the original team that won Milwaukee, the first Reg I event.
Yeah.
It's just a Whimsicott instead of a Grimmsnarl, and it completely changes how the team works, but it makes it overall better in my opinion. Because, say it with me, Grimmsnarl's not that good.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I think that people have sort of pivoted the beginning of this reg compared to a lot of other regulations. Regulations tend to start very offensive and then they sort of slow down as time goes. This one kind of did the opposite. Where our first event, the top 8, there were maybe 1 or 2 teams in there that I would consider HO. I think we saw a lot of very slow teams, and then things have been sort of pacing up a little bit, as we can see with the winning team. I mean, that is as HO as I think you can get in this format. So it's very kind of interesting to see the change that's been happening.
Yeah, and I mean there are still people playing these balancing teams, and of course Dr. Iron Trailer has it right there with this new common Ice Rider Miraidon team we're looking at, with Landorus having the Bolt Beam plus ground type coverage with your 3 main attackers, and then the very, very classic Fire Water Grass of Urshifu, Incin, and Amoonguss.
Yeah, and shout out MDB for putting up an incredible original core. I mean, his team that won Utrecht was just this, but instead of Amoonguss, it was Grimmsnarl. And then I took that team and I brought it to NAIC, and then I talked with him and his friend Ibrahim at NAIC, and they changed it to Amoonguss, and I said, damn, that's smart. Wish I had thought of that. But no, Amoonguss really does tie this so well together, because as Ibrahim sort of laid it out for me, and I was thinking about myself, Amoonguss Miraidon feels a little counterintuitive, because you're oh no, I can't spore while I'm in my electric terrain.
That's
but if
not
you
how
have your
I
electric
sounded That's not how I sounded when I messaged the group chat why you would put the Amoonguss with the Miraidon, but continue.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. I was just, improvising, it happens sometimes. I didn't get it exactly right. I'm not perfect. But the Amoonguss, everyone is oh, you can't spore in the electric terrain. But what does everyone who's playing against Miraidon want to do? They want to get rid of the electric terrain. So then you're sitting there with an Amoonguss on the field that is putting your ass to sleep. You get knocked out. You just have such a great pin where you have the Miraidon and the Amoonguss, and you say, oh, you want to get rid of my terrain? That's fine. I'll make use of that. Or you want to let me have my terrain? That's fine. Terra Electric Electrodrift. Die. That's all you have to do. It's a beautiful, adaptation to the team.
Yeah, just having redirection instead of the screens as well, because a lot of the teams are just learning.
Screens are so ass.
Yeah, so screens are always. It's good when no one knows what the setup or what the really offensive mode is, and you really started seeing it in NAIC when the Grimmsnarl usage plummeted in day 2, and everyone just started throwing Decorate Smeargle onto everything. And it's okay, even the Pokemon that can't set up, I'm going to make my own setup mode that also can redirect and spore and fake out. And just so it's okay, the screen's up. Decorate, okay, that screen's not only just nullified, but you're going to take even more damage. What are you going to do about it now?
Yeah, you just have a mon on the field that is kind of not really doing much. And then you play a screen's mirror, and you and your opponent both look each other in the eye and say, God, I can't wait to be here for 3 hours or when I get crit.
Yep.
And both happen all the time. That's why it's so unfun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last thing I think, or just last duo to just look at before we move on to the VR tours. There's two different teams in 4th and 5th place. I know we're just talking trash about Grimmsnarl, but here it is in 4th place. And it's this Miraidon Zamazenta duo. The 6 here is really reminiscent of what Joe Ugarte would be playing with his like screens Miraidon with Volcarona in Regulation G. And I believe in the Reg I tournaments he has gone to, he's looked like, I know one of them he brought the Miraidon Zamazenta. I really always I like teams that have Chien-Pao with Miraidon. Again, that Bolt Beam coverage that's really, really fast is really awesome. And the Chien-Pao also really helps the Iron Hands and the Zamazenta. Hands having both sort of Ruin boost and a Terrain boost where it actually has an ability just adds on a ton of multipliers that makes it really, really powerful. And again, can be like a third restricted.
Yeah, I mean, this team definitely, it originally came, I believe, from the Japanese circuit. I think Shohei Kimura was the person who, like, put this 6 together. If it wasn't Grimmsnarl, it was something else, but this sort of general core, he was the first person doing a lot with Miraidon Zamazenta. And I think the thing I love about it is it kind of takes, like, if you look back at Reg G teams, you see a lot of the Miraidon teams had, like, some of them were like the Volcarona Grimmsnarl Iron Hands. You saw a lot of Zamazenta teams were like Zamazenta Chien-Pao physical attackers. So it kind of melds those two together so well in a way that would make you kind of think that it feels like this team is trying to do too much at once. But then you realize that it's just putting a lot of damage on the field, and that's totally fine to just do. You can just like keep putting damage on the field and just keep making your Mons just do more and more. Like the Iron Hands getting the Court Drive boost as well as the Chien-Pao on the field, he's just doing so much damage. Just an absurd amount.
Yeah. No, everything on this team has the ability to blow you up and win the game itself outside of the Grim. And even the Grim, it's like you're able to spam the Thunder Waves to just get your Pokemon to better speed positions to just throw games your way, that and even in positions where you really shouldn't have. And then the other way we saw this team was, again, a little more
Gazorpazorp.
balancing. Yeah, Gazorpazorp.
Yeah, definitely, like, I think sort of along a similar wavelength to what I was saying with the other one, where this takes the opposite sort of feel from the other one, where it goes for a bit more of the I have my passive mode with Farig, Wims, Incin, and then I kind of just am able to slam my foot on the gas and just sort of like take you out one bit at a time. So it does very similar things to what the other team wants to do, but just sort of in a different way.
Yeah, I think having two modes of like very dedicated speed control as well, along with more damage mitigation in the form of Incineroar, on a team like this, it's like, again, you're just giving yourselves more dedicated tools. You know what's going to happen each turn. There aren't really like surprises. There's no hidden like praying for a Thunder Wave or whatever to like control the speed. Like you have the ability to. CJ, I'm sorry, I love you.
I love you too, Angelo.
My favorite drug is missing T-Wave.
But like, yeah, like having like the Tailwind, like just knowing it's like, okay, I can play this Tailwind mode, or I can play this Trick Room mode, and just know you can go with that instead of trying to play like a relatively fast team still, but that more so like middle ground where there's other Pokemon like Scarf Pokemon that are going to always outspeed you. Well, now you have Tailwind, you can counteract that. And that's like a nice way to play it as well. I think Miraidon Zamazenta is a duo that can continue to see some growth, and maybe it's something that we see do well in Worlds next month. But first, we have to talk about a tournament on the same day, which of the St. Jude's tournament, which was the June VR Challenge.
And quite contrary to what I noted with the St. Jude tour, with there being a lot of variety, so much less variety happening here. But
that 7 Miraidon's a top 8, baby.
I do think it's still kind of cool that we are seeing, as we were talking about before with the Pagos, where the CM Pagos was still sort of the premier one. This being the premier Combine Pagos happening in Reg I so far. Originally created and popularized, I believe, by Francesco Piopero. and a few other players. But just incredibly cool to see like this whole structure, a structure that I never probably would have put together in my mind. Saying let's take a Sinistcha, toss it on this. Do you want to use its signature move? Not really. Let's just use Shadow Ball. Do I want to use my Terapgos with leftovers like everybody says that I should always do? Not really. I want to make it not die to close combat. And then it's just, there's so many things on this team that I think are really cool. And then the biggest, most glaring one is just the rain dance on Scarf Urshifu, because you don't have a Koraidon matchup with this team.
No. And I think that's like one of the reasons why Terapagos, compared to early Reg I, to even like the late Reg I from a few months ago to now, is everyone realized, oh wait, Koraidon actually is good. It's not a meme Pokemon. It's actually kind of like pretty damn solid. And the more people playing Koraidon, it's like the more you're losing to the Terapagos. Like Terapagos is losing. This team reminds me, there was back in I believe it was like 2011. There was in TCG Worlds, there was a deck that made it to finals, and for like Worlds finals. And the only way you can describe the deck is it looked like the guy threw his binder against the wall, and the cards that fell out is what he put in his deck. But then you look at and you look at everything together. It's like, okay, I actually see like how the pieces of these things work together. The Sinistcha's keeping your Terapagos healthy because you don't have the leftovers, because you have the Electric Seed to make sure that you don't die to close combats, you don't die to the collision courses. Miraidon is making sure that you have that go button that Terapagos teams don't have, or at least a setup Terapagos teams don't have. And it's also activating this Electric Seed. It's giving the Iron Shreds, again, another Pokemon that gives you a go mode with the Quark Drive, with the Choice Band. And then Urshifu and Incineroar are the two best Pokemon in the format, not named Miraidon. So it's like all of these, and then between the three here, Fire, Water, Grass Trio.
Yep.
You have so many pieces, like weather control, speed control, redirection, the fake out, the pivoting, the damage reduction. So you have all the stuff that Terapagos really likes, on top of two Pokemon that not only support the Terapagos, but also can just be like their own let's get it mode. And yeah, it's a team that doesn't make sense until you sit down. It's like, okay, this actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it looks very like Jackson Pollock sort of in orientation, where you just kind of throwing shit at a wall. But then like you take a step back and you're like, okay, it kind of makes sense altogether. The Rock Tomb Iron Treads to make sure that I can outspeed with my Assault Vest bulky ass Miraidon, whatever. Like,
yeah. But that's not the team that ended up winning. That was the fifth place team. I think we can just go through here. The winner, just Jongso Lee. Again, this is...
it's the team I was talking about from Michael der Beste.
You're going to see this a lot.
Yeah, you're also going to see me running it a lot, because this shit is absurdly broken.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to say I'm glad that it seems like we, as a society, are moving past Leech Seed Calyrex. I think that was a very dark time. I think that was a very toxic time. And I'm glad that people are just running, like, Clear Amulet High Horsepower again, because it's nice to, like... What I feel like in a restricted format, like, you want to have a restricted Pokemon. And I feel like just, like... I understand the concept of, like, Leftovers Leech Seed, because you do never get KO'd, but also you just, like, get intimidated forever. So, like, although you're healing, they realistically can, like, outdamage you. So, like, I wasn't the big fan of it. I didn't really get it. So I really like seeing, like, Clear Amulet to attack Trick Room, protect Calyrex again. I feel like we, as a community, are past, like, a very dark time, and that's very beautiful. I also noticed a lot of, the teams in VR, especially a little bit more in the June tour than the July one, but a lot of Water Urshifus are going back to Sash, which is very interesting. Some of them are just 2 Water Attack, Close Combat Detect, or Surgeon Close Combat Taunt. And I think that's very interesting, because I found that when Reg G was wrapping up, we kind of leaned more towards, like, Sash Urshifu rather than Scarf Urshifu, so I think it's funny how that kind of like happened twice in the same meta.
Yeah, it's sort of I think they have the Miraidon and Urshifu sort of have like an inverse relationship, where obviously on the teams with Scarf Miraidon you can't run Scarf Urshifu and like vice versa. But I think even more so, the teams that are running Scarf Urshifu are realizing they can't bring Scarf Urshifu into the teams that have Scarf Miraidon, so they're swapping back to Sash. But then eventually we'll see those teams swap back to running Scarf Urshifu and then Spect Miraidon, and then it'll be an inverse again. So we're going to keep seeing that sort of like overturning as time goes. I think that's just going to, like, no matter how long Reg I goes, if it lasted a year, I think we would keep seeing a flip and a flop between that as we went.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also love seeing Landorus come back too. Ooh. Okay, I do love seeing Landorus come back, but
Landorus did go away, and this was the second and third place team. And sorry to cut you off. Talk about Lando, and then we'll get to the moth.
No, I just think that Lando's goated, but I don't care because I want to talk about Electric Seed Volcarona because I think this is so cool. Like I remember the first time I had seen it was when Eric Rios was on stream at NAIC, and just like getting that defense boost and being able to set up is just like, it's so beautiful. And I just think that it's a really cool tech. And I am a very big fan of it. And whoever was the person that like first came up with it, like, you are so cool. And I love the tech. And that's literally all I have to say. It's just like, I like, cause I feel like it's just something you never, like, it's something that like, I feel like I would have never thought of, and seeing it like do well in a tournament and in practice is, I don't know. It's just really cool.
It's exciting. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's very cool to see. I like seeing uncommon uses of common Pokemon. For a while, everybody on Volcarona was just using leftovers, occasionally citrus, but not really that often. Because they were like, oh, I just wanted to live as long as possible. But like, you're still letting it live as long as possible.
Exactly.
You just get to Giga Drain some of that health back eventually. And like, what's the one thing that bypasses the +1 defense boost? Critical hits. What's the critical hit guy? Urshifu. What's Urshifu not strong against? Grass types. Fuck you there.
True.
Yeah, I think
I love that guy though. I can't say shit about him. I love Urshifu. But like,
yeah, I think the thing that really got me, the NAIC match that you were talking about, CJ, I was driving to pick Amanda up and I have coffee, and that I think, it was like mid-morning.
Big wife guy over here.
Yeah, big, huge wife guy over here.
Angela, are you married? I can't tell.
If only I could tell from the video quality.
Actually, you probably can't. I'm not getting that far up into my camera. But anyways, I was not watching. I'm just saying this. I was not watching the match while driving. I had my Bluetooth connected, listening to it. Don't tell, like,
yes, cops. Adult. This guy right here.
Yes,
he was watching Pokemon while driving.
But
can you imagine being pulled over for that? That would be so humiliating.
I would actually.
That's so humiliating.
I'm not going to say what I just thought because it's monetized. Anyways, I forgot who was casted, but they're like, yeah, with the Electric Seed, after one Quiver Dance, you're +4 in everything. You're +4 in the 4 out of the 5 stats you invest in. You're +4 in 4 of them, and you can't boost HP because we aren't playing Dynamax. And it just hit me. I'm like, wow, that's insane. Like being +1, +1, +1, +1, and it's like same thing. You're fast as fuck. You hit like a truck. The Giga Drain keeps you healthy, and they can't break you down because you're not only are you +1, +1, you can even continue to boost up on your special defense. And since you're Flame Body, if they do hit you and they're physical attackers, well, the Flame Body can just activate 30% of the time, and you're doing nothing burnt into a +1 Volcarona.
Exactly. Zamazenta who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like this is just
I thought I really wanted to shout that tech out just because I thought it was like I love it so much.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the other teams to bring up before we move on is there are a handful of this was in the 9th place team. We've been seeing this team a lot. We brought it up a few weeks ago. This Calyrex Shadow Zamazenta team with the Smeargle, Rilla, Torn, Raging Bolt core. A few other players who did top cut had a different look at it. You had a version with we had a couple people who brought Incineroar with it instead, no Raging Bolt, stuff like that. But in general, I still think that, at least for this moment, or at least the moment of the June VR challenge a week ago, this is still probably the best way to play CSR Zama. And
this was the team that won Japan Nats, by the way.
Yes, this was the team that won Japan Nats.
Yes.
The other one came in. I knew it came in.
Just because we were talking about it earlier, I just wanted to.
It just hit me. I knew. And yeah, this was another team, again, developed by a ton of very talented players who went and figured out a way to make the duo that everyone was so afraid of in the pre-format portion of the format that ended up falling off. Again, the Smeargle here being able to just boost pretty much everything. I think really the coolest part is the Tornadus with the Sharp Beak. Not a lot of stuff in this format resists flying, and honestly, like the +2 Torn with the Sharp Beak boost, like spamming out Bleak Windstorms. Sure, you might miss, but like if you don't, you're doing a ton. Not only are you doing a ton of damage, but you can also hack your opponent by lowering their speed.
Yeah, and the thing that I do like, this team disgusts me, but the thing the thing that I do want to sort of harken back to is looking back at Reg G. So the fact that this team was put together by, I believe, like 2 to 3 different groups of people at the same time. Like I know Marcus Hamann, as well as I forget the name of the person who won Japan Nats, but both of them came to the same conclusions about this team, and I don't believe they were working together on it. It was the same with the Skyplate versus Sharpbeak Torn, etc. Sorry, did you?
I was going to say, I believe Marcus went and said,
I know I saw something about them talking about it after, but I didn't think they had built the team together.
I think what they ended up doing, because it was them two along with Dr. Aaron Trailer.
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say, yeah.
I think it was more so they were throwing ideas around, and when they all realized, hey, this 6 is pretty fucking good, I think it was like some slight like separate things. Then it was, okay, everyone come together, everyone like put all of your info in, and like I think everyone got like 70% of the way there separately, and then came together to fill the 100% total.
Yeah, and the thing that I like wanted to mention about that was looking back at Reg G. So at the start of Reg G, the CSR teams that we saw that were so strong were CSR with Nasty Plot or Calm Mind, and then Clefairy. And like then just, you know, the balance bros on the side, Urshi, Incin, Rilla, and then it would be like a Torn or Raging Bolt or something like that as like the glue piece. And then going into NAIC last year, we saw a change where it was Edu and a few others started running Smeargle over the Clefairy on that team. And the Smeargle was wide guard, not decorate, but the same otherwise. And that found a lot more success than the Clefairy versions did at that NAIC, because it was more, I think it had a better position into the metagame at the time. But then we saw that sort of structure of team continue throughout a lot of Reg G. The Smeargle CSR with like Life Orb CSR instead of Covert Cloak, we started seeing that pop up a good bit more. So I think that Reg G is kind of what formed a really strong basis for this team to be able to come together. And I think that's always fun to see the ideas that people thought about a year plus ago, sort of coming to fruition now that it's a different format, but finding an even stronger way to use it.
Yeah. So we're finally on to the July challenge, and before we go into the teams, I think just looking at just some of the general usage stats in terms of the pairings.
60% usage in day 2 for Miraidon.
Yeah, I mean, we can just go down here.
Yeah, I mean, like, that fully tracks, but, like, son of a bitch, like, that sucks.
No.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just going through the usage here, like, for the restricteds, I feel like this top 10 is just the way it is. This is just the 10 best restricteds. I think that even further on, the top 6 in Miraidon, CSR, Zama, CIR, Lunala, and Koraidon, I think that 6 is going to be a bulk of what you're going to see. And then you're going to have people who are just fans of Kyogre, Terapagos, Zacian. Some of these Pokemon work together. Some of them will go with another ways.
Yeah, it's all the ones with the very specific fans that really just love to play with their Mon. Like all of the Swordfish people, all 2 of them, really just finding success with their strong team. It's incredible to see their perseverance really making them getting them through.
It's the personality trait of I started playing VGC in March of 2022.
Dude, that's the worst part, is fucking Swordfish's strongest soldier right now is a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
He didn't even play then.
He was born when Sword and Shield came out.
He wasn't even alive then. Yeah, exactly.
Who is he, Keon?
Yeah, Kean Campbell. It's
Kean Campbell, yeah.
Yeah, you're a Keon Campbell.
Yeah.
But I think
something I will say is I think last January, I tweeted, if Groudon wins a major in the 2025 season, I will make a genuine Worlds run for 2026. And we have one more format left, and it is Worlds. And you never know.
Are you scared?
I'm gonna say it.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be.
Well, because Junksy did really well with a Groudon team at Portland. And that kind of had me, it was very exciting to see Groudon do well, but then I also was very nervous because I was like, I don't have the discipline to, fulfill this bit. But who knows what worlds will ensue. I just think it would be very beautiful and very poetic if, everyone clowned Groudon and then it, won worlds.
If Groudon wins worlds, the crash out in our group, and we will actually have to restrain Anthony.
No. I actually don't think that'll be a problem. I think that's the funniest part, is at this point, he has denounced the Don so hard that I think if it does win something, it will mean significantly worse things for him personally than for the rest of us. But also at the same time, this is we're talking super theoretical about this. We're talking about something that's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I will say this, it is cool, again, just to look at percentages, how you had Kyogre with almost 4 times the usage or so, 3 times the usage of than Groudon in day 1, and they both had the same day 2 convert usage rate. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Kyogre's conversion absolutely terrible. While Groudon, solid for 2 of the 11 people that brought it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, you could argue the conversion for a lot of these is pretty bad. If you're looking at Koraidon, had roughly 2 times the conversion rate that Kyogre had going into day 2, but that doesn't mean much when it's still only 4. Compared to 40. But I mean, then you look at Lunala. Lunala is something that I think is thought of as the peak of consistency. That Mon doesn't run moves that can miss unless it's running Meteor Beam, which people aren't really running right now. And it's just good at what it does, and it's just very bulky, sits on the field, but it's still only 4 going in. So I think that we're not looking at something where this is people not making it in day 2 because they're missing their moves. I think that this is purely just a Miraidon check. It's just if your team has even a marginal issue into Miraidon, you need to relook at your team. If your team,
absolutely,
just all of these mons just need to look at this electric iron serpent and just say, do I fold to this Draco Meteor? Answer yes. Flowchart down. Change team.
Yep.
Yeah.
You go through and look at the restricted pairs and usage, and I feel like CSR Zama is always very Victory Road coded. I feel regardless of how good it actually is in the meta, it's always the most used duo. And again, this Calyrex Ice Miraidon as the second most used team had the best pairing usage for day 2, followed by Miraidon with Lunala, and then Miraidon with Zama. So when you were looking at these Miraidon teams, just for the top 10 in usage, you have 41% of the pairings, of the restricted pairings, were Miraidon team, and of course down here it's 60% total. So there were Miraidon duos that didn't even make the restricted pairing usage chart that ended up day 2ing. Like, it's the best Pokemon of the format. I think at this point, I don't even think it's that close. And maybe, like, if you want to argue, I don't think you can't argue Incineroar.
It's just they're both absurdly splashable onto really whatever team you're gonna run. Like, there's almost no restricted that really doesn't want to be next to Miraidon. And it kind of at this point does feel almost like if you're not running Miraidon and you're not running CSR Zama, it feels like just an opportunity gap. You are just missing out on an opportunity that somebody else is using. It's like the same people who refuse to bring Incineroar because it's so broken. It's you are just hurting yourself by not allowing yourself to bring this thing that is so overwhelmingly fucked up.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the last local I went to, I ran Miraidon plus Dialga, and it was more so for shits and gigs. Dialga's my favorite restricted, but like it was one of those things where you can also run like the quote unquote joke restricted when you also have a Miraidon next to it, and also the two work really well together. I was able to click Discharge. You know how funny it is to click Discharge and double paralyze Tony's Pokemon and then still lose because he's that guy?
Beautiful crash out ensuing.
No, we just looked at each other and just started laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, he 2-0'd me, but I made him work hard for that 2-0.
Understood.
But, like, yeah, going down to the non-restricted, it is kind of what you expect. We do continue to see, at least day 1 usage in Smeargle rising. 7th most used Pokemon, and I know we're just talking about 2018 or retro formats. Get, like, a 2015 old head, and they're going to see Smeargle in 7th. They will crash out. Like right here, this is, like, Gabby and Chalky's, like, worst nightmare.
Oh, get someone who played 2019, and they're going to cry looking at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I will point out, there were 5 Clefairy in day 2 and only 1 Fluttermane in day 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the
That's my
day
diva.
2 numbers...
That's my diva.
True. The day 2 numbers here are really, really interesting to me. I mean, first, Rillaboom being in 3rd for day 1 and day 2 is crazy to me, because the fall off of Rillaboom has been documented in Reg I. That Pokemon, I've never seen a Pokemon go from being so overwhelmingly strong in Reg G to just kind of there in Reg I. But then we still have we have 29% of people running it on their day 1 teams, and it had a good conversion rate, especially compared to the rest. But then you look at a lot of these Mons day 2 conversion rate. I don't know exactly how many people were in day 2. I think it was something closer to like 25. But the fact that we're looking at these numbers and seeing so many of these Pokemon have 1 or 2 or 3 usages in day 2 is absurd to me. And it really is just like a note to sort of how centralized Reg I is becoming. But I think that's because we're prepping for Worlds and people are just running their bottom of the barrel baseline team. They're not showing any of the super interesting techs yet. They're waiting until Wordle's coming around to really show off the Jumpluff Groudon or the whatever the fuck that they're pulling out of their ass. I personally am so excited to see the really creative team building processes going to be coming out of Worlds this year.
Yeah, it's not going to be until like the end of July, early August, like when you'll see like the Japanese tour run tournaments where like Joe Ugarte is playing at a Japan tournament. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, is that Screens Grim? That's not a thing.
Yeah.
I like Screens with Mirai and like stuff like that where it's like, why is there a Volcarona there? What does that do? And then you're like, oh, that's a monster. Yeah. And it was just something that wasn't brought up and we didn't know about for a month or two. And we'll finally get there when we do see, like, have people start going more into the building process for Worlds.
Also, big shout out to Teal Mask Ogerpon, being one of the few Pokemon to have a lower percentage in day 1 than it had in day 2, alongside Annihilate.
Yeah, I mean, look, there were more Annihilate.
All the Annihilates were Scarf, so don't get too happy.
Yes. I mean, but listen, I love her, and she made top 8, and
I love Annihilate, don't get me wrong, but Scarf bitch-ass move is really, it's pissing me off sometimes.
Fair. I mean, like, I think people forget that, like, I think outside of, like, the ghosts, obviously, and, like, the Kirums and Eturn, like, everything dies to Final Gambit. So, like...
Hey, Furigraph. That's my goat. Furigraph living that shit.
Also,
I mean, in terms of, like, restricted Pokemon, per se, yeah.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Final Gambit is, like, a pretty dumb move on a Pokemon with the absolute massive HP stat that Annihilate has. But yeah, there's more Annihilate and Teal Mask Overpound that made Day 2 than Shenpao, Fluttermane, and Chi-Yu combined.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just, again, insane. Let's go over some of these teams.
Definitely. I think that definitely looking at the top part of these teams, I ran through the numbers for these. So in the entirety of the top cut, there was one Terapagos, one Koraidon, one Zacian, one Kyogre, one Groudon. There was a Miraidon on almost every team, and a CSR on the rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
There were also only 2 Ice Riders in the entirety of the cut, which I thought was a very interesting stat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially because the CIR is paired a lot of the times with Miraidon, which has been having a really great time.
Yeah, but also showing the flexibility of Miraidon, I think.
Yeah.
Miraidon just having so many different ways to run it. And now this was the thing that I've been leading up to for the entire video. Talking about Terapagos so many times, saying that Calm Mind and Specs are the only usage for it. I looked at this and I got fucking flashbanged earlier. That a Meteor Beam Power Herb Terapagos won this shit. I was like, dude, this is such a fucking Smogon ladder set. Because like so this person, My Stars, I keep seeing them in like a lot of the Smogon like tournaments that happen. And there's one currently going on for Reg I, and I think were out in top 4 to some really unfortunate luck. But this Terapagos, specifically the Meteor Beam Power Herb set, I think I've seen run randomly in this Reg I tournament like 4 separate times, and every time in my mind I say that's a Smogon-ass set, and then I just write it off, and I say that I'm not going to see this at an event, and then it wins the fucking VR tour, because of course it does. It doesn't make any sense to me that it is, but it's so wild. Like, your entire damage output is coming from the fact that this 90% accurate move can only boost 1 time a game, essentially. But it's still apparently doing enough?
So the entire thing, last year we saw a lot of Meteor Beam Terapagos in the closed team sheet formats from Japan. Hell, I remember like a lot of it would be like Protect, Meteor Beam, Rock Polish, and then Starstorm. Terra Starstorm. So when I saw the Power Herb Meat Beam, the first thing I did was go back and I'm like, that's a Japanese player. And I'm like, that's not Japan.
Yeah, they're Thai.
Yeah. But, like, I think it is that best of both worlds where you have... It's technically a setup turn by clicking Meteor Beam, but your setup turn is also a go button because, you know...
And you also just get to cook an Incineroar.
Yeah, you get to delete an Incin, and then you get to get going with your Terra Starstorm or your Earth Power. And unlike the Spec set, you aren't just walled by Wide Guard. You can protect in front of a fake. You aren't fake out bait. You can just protect in front of it. So you get a lot of the defensive capabilities in terms of move selection of the Calm Mind set, along with the fuck you, I'm going to delete your Pokemon button that the Spec set has. And so I really, really like that. With the Terapagos. Now, yes, you're putting the entire thing on a move that will only hit 9/10 of the time. And as VGC players and listeners to the podcast, VGC listeners know, 90% means like 50% max.
Anything that's not 100 is a 50-50.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there is a payoff there with hitting it. And you are also missing some of the defensive utility as well. Urshifu bops you and Koraidon because you don't have that +1 to your defense. You aren't as bulky as the Electric Seed set, or you aren't able to recover the same way as the Calm Mind set. So you are losing on some of those aspects there. But the rest of the team, I think, is just really great. We know that Incin, Ursh, Amoonguss, and Mirai, specifically the Scarf Miraidon, they all work very well. The thought process behind this is probably the same as the thought process behind the similar 6 with Calyrex Ice Rider. And then, again, the reason why your Electric Seed is on the Terapagos is because it's on the Volcarona, where it can play its own setup restricted mode. So it's like nice where it's like your restricted setup mode is like not your actual restricted Pokemon, and your restricted Pokemon's allowed to actually do things turn 1.
Yeah, that I think the Volcarona is sort of the glue of this team, because it is sort of as my prior crash out was in relation to the Tropicos not having any sort of setup or anything like that means that into the sort of matchups where it can't just click Meteor Beam and take something out, it's not really doing much. But you have your Volcarona as like the secondary setup mode. Also, a big shout out to the Amoonguss on the Miraidon team again. Even funnier thing I think you can do with this is have the Amoonguss and the Terapagos out in electric terrain and just terrastalize your Terapagos, get rid of the terrain, put something the fuck to sleep. I think the fact that on this team you have control over those interactions that I was talking about before is like even funnier and adds like so many more layers to the Amoonguss on Miraidon angle.
Yeah. I also wanted to say, in top 16 of this tour, there were 5 Hearthflame Ogrepons, and I feel like that's a mon I haven't really seen in a while.
Yeah.
And to see it pick back up again is really, really cool, because like Ogrepon is never not going to like be bad, but I feel like it kind of had like not like it didn't like fall off, but it definitely like declined in usage, because I feel like towards the end of Reg I and beginning of Reg I, Cornerstone got really popular because you do get like a free focus sash, and rock damage is just like very good. Like to have a 100% accurate rock move, like very rare in times like these. And it's cool to see like, I don't know, kind of like I feel like Cornerstone is still definitely out there, but I feel like the rise of Hearthflame has been very like interesting to see, especially because like Hearthflame was a big part of like why Arubega was so successful.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe we'll get a Hearthflame resurgence, which is very cool because I love Ogrepon.
We can get
I love
R2 Bega. Whoa.
Boo.
You didn't hear what I just said, did you? No, okay, all right. Well, cut that out, please.
No, that was the,
no, that's saying it. That's saying it.
Absolutely.
Fuck! God damn it!
Yeah.
This is my entire career on the line.
Also, Raj Desai was the person in July
Arcali.
VR that had Scarf Annihilate, so I want to shout out them because I love Annihilate. That's the best girl, and thank you for doing her justice.
Okay, so second place, Michelle.
Mr. I Connect himself.
Yes, we talked with this team. We know this. What we're going to do, this is a Littleroot lessons first. We're going to go to the bad place, and I don't know if...
I'm so excited for you to see this.
I do not...
It's actually insane.
I do not know if this is going to act like if the audio will go. I was told that I need to watch this. So it looks like this is Nicola.
So for context, I was watching Michael's stream earlier, and this was in his first round of the day. This is game 1. Michael found out that he was playing against Nikolai, and was like, "Oh my god, it's a playback from Utrecht. Like we get to play this back again," because they're both running very, very similar teams to what they ran then. And then he gets into the game, says, "I'm gonna do the Michael classic," which is double protecting. And then I saw this play, and I immediately said to Angelo and CJ, I said, "This is some goofy shit. I need y'all to watch this later." And then I saw that Nikolai posted this tweet like 5 minutes after I said that.
So 30 seconds. We're going to see. I don't know if the sound's going to play, but we're going to see this.
Be classic.
So Calyrex protects.
Yeah, too bad, Hendes. Too bad. Fake out.
Fake out.
Wait.
Boom!
Oh my god. And now I don't know which move it locked itself into. Is he insane?
Genius
Imagine
play.
I just click Glacial Lance Earth Power. Is he insane? I get a double knockout. Is he insane? MDB classic.
just an incredible play. Just really just hard
Aura,
calling out
fucking
MDB.
aura.
Basically just saying, MDB, you ain't shit. I know your games. I'm gonna fake out my own guy because I don't want you to know if you have to swap your Lando out or not. It's such a beautiful fucking
it's
play.
Fucking so good.
I thought it was so good. Because the second that he realized, I think he was like, oh my god, that's so smart. But what if I just called his ass? What if I was just like a worse player?
It's
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what one moment. Because I just
So
realized that I'm
good.
doing this. I need to share.
Oh my
back.
god. I was like my mouth was open for like 5 minutes because I was like, because I was thinking like if that happened to me, like I don't even like if I had to be like at a tournament or something, I would have been like,
I'd be inconsolable. I'd be crying immediately.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my god, Mom, they're bullying me.
Yeah.
We'll go through some other teams. Like I know we've been talking a lot about a lot of these teams that have done well. Again, second place. One moment. Okay, just sharing this. Like again, second place, third place, like fourth places are all teams we've seen a lot. Fifth place, it is the CSR Zama, but we have a little change in using the Ogerpon Heartflame over the Raging Bolt. One of the really cool things that this team has to offer, this was like one of my favorite combos in Regulation E when we first got Ogerpon, is the double Grassy Glide with Rillaboom and Heartflame.
Shout out Wolfie.
Yep. That was Reg F when he did that.
No, I know.
Yes, but I remember, like, I think it was Fall River in October for Reg E. I played KD, and I was using Blood Moon Dusclops, and I'm getting into Trick Room, I'm doing my stuff, and we went up against each other. He's like, I'm going to click Grassy Glide so fucking much, Angelo, and I'm like, shit.
Yeah, and I mean, my favorite part about it is just being able to get around Armor Tail or anything like that with Mold Breaker. It's just so much fun to use. I've used this a lot, and it's a really, really good time. I do think that it's interesting seeing the Heartflame swap out for Raging Bolt, because like Raging Bolt, you think of it doing a couple of things, being really, really good into Kyogre. But this team takes a different bent in terms of that, where you have the Terra Grass on the Zama on this team compared to other Terras that we've seen. I believe it was Ghost on some of the ones earlier, or like Water, etc. But seeing the Grass definitely gives you a more unique move into a lot of these Kyogre teams. But then the Ogerpon, instead of just being able to sit there and Thunderclap the Kyogre, you can sit there and Grassy Glide the Kyogre and still get your priority damage off on it to make sure that it doesn't just water spout in your face. So it's definitely taking a different method to get to the same conclusion in terms of that. But then you also get this secondary redirection piece that can't be put to sleep, because this team, notably a little weak to Amoonguss, doesn't really have the best of times into it. So getting that can definitely help you out significantly.
Yeah, this person was a Calyrex Shadow main with double redirection. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely Calyrex Shadow main. And the Tailwind, no, definite Calyrex Shadow main.
Yeah.
Another team that that was Hojun Yu, who finished in 5th from South Korea. And then we'll go to Raj Desai's team, 7th place. And I think this is a really interesting team. We brought up the Annihilate with the Choice Scarf, Final Gambit, Close Combat, Shadow Claw, and the coaching. You also have the Farig, Incin, Lando, Miraidon, and Calyrex. This is since the Scarf is on the Annihilate, we're going with the specs on the Miraidon. So it's the very classic Choice Specs, Terra Fairy Miraidon, the Leech Seed Calyrex, the Landorus with its Life Orb, and then we're going with the Seed on Farig with Roar, which is a really cool tech, and AV Incin.
Yes,
I think
big fan of Roar. I think Roar is a very underutilized move. I feel like I do see it all the time because I follow Tapu Wapo on Twitter, but I feel like Roar is such I just think it's very overlooked and underappreciated. and it definitely has like a very cool niche if you're able to like get it off. I also commend this person for running just like raw Sandsear with no rain.
That's what the adaptation from top 4 of NAIC, they were running the same thing on Lando. The top 4 at NAIC team was just this, but with Urshi instead of Annihilate. But yeah, it's still just the raw Sandsear. I mean, we've seen other versions of Lando come around, like with Taunt, or with like Crunch. I ran that at NAIC. But I think that Sandsear, at the end of the day, it's just a strong move. Like, if you miss 20% of the time, it is what it is, because it's pretty strong. And to the note about Roar on Farig, I think it's kind of an opportunity cost is the thing. If you find that your team has an okay enough CSR matchup that you can make do without foul play, then I think you can definitely run something else. But the problem is Farigiraf most of the time is your CSR matchup. And this Farigiraf doesn't do shit into CSR, especially if it's the last 2 Pokemon in the field, because you can't roar it out. But the thing that I do really, really appreciate about Roar on this team is for the Annihilate specifically. I think the coolest thing is, so Annihilate very often, I've run Scarf Annihilate with CIR a good bit, testing out different like variations. And the biggest issue I always run into is sitting there with a Scarf Annihilate locked into coaching. And you don't just want to hard swap it out because it's super obvious you're going to hard swap it out. But you also don't really want to leave it in because you want something better on the fucking field. But so you do the side roar on your own Annihilate after you've coachinged your Farigiraf to get the Annihilate off the field, and then get something else in for free, basically. So it's a really, really nice use of this to sort of make up for like bad momentum from using Scarf Annihilate. Because you can't run U-turn Annihilate because you need fighting and ghost coverage, and then you need final gambit. It's pretty much just between coaching and U-turn for the last, and coaching is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that this format has really like gone to show, again with all the coaching mons and the decorate Smeargle, is that being able to boost up your partner when that partner is a super broken restricted Pokemon, really fucking good, really useful. I just think this is just a really neat team. Anything with Farig, I'm going to really like. All of these mons are just really cool, and it's just a neat way to see this 6, and specifically this restricted duo be played.
Another really fun tech that I just thought about with that is if you have the Farigiraf next to your CIR, you have a bunch of the leech seeds set up, so you're just getting all the healing onto your own Ice Rider. You can roar out your own Ice Rider on that turn to guarantee some healing into a different partner that needs the health. I think that's also a very interesting use of it that I didn't think of before.
Yeah. Especially with like kind of like what I was saying earlier too, with like because you don't have like a clear amulet, you're just like prone to being intimidated. So you could just like roar yourself out and like reset all your drops, which is really great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And not lose like the leech seed. Yeah. You can still
Angelo, your favorite Pokemon in 14th place.
It is my favorite Pokemon in 14th place. I will say
it's true, and it's the guy who's been using it for the entirety of the restricted metas.
It's also I love Blood Moon. I have 1 minute. I'll give you.
Also, the guy who faked out his own Miraidon in that clip.
Yes, 1 minute. Let's see. Love this Pokemon so much.
There it is.
Shout out CJ for getting this for me.
Shout out Blood Moon.
We can talk about this team, but I do want to talk real quickly about, because I do want to look especially at. I'll bring up 9th place, along with Matthew Robinson's team.
Dude, the 3 Clefairies all in a row, I'm not going to lie, those teams are kind of pissing me off. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I love Clefairy. What the fuck are these teams?
The team in 11th is like kind of spicy.
We will diagnose it.
Don't get
first, we should talk about, just real quickly, this is standard Swordfish.
It's the Swordfish team. Move on.
Yep. I know. I will say.
No, I'm joking.
Roaring Moon, Amoonguss, Iron Hands, and Urshifu. Like specifically the hands, like Moon and Iron Hands. Like I love like this portion of the team, and if it was anything else up here, I'd like it more. Moving on.
Yeah, if it was like 2 good restricteds.
Yes.
But unfortunately, you can't run 2 good restricteds with those guys for whatever
Nope.
fucking reason.
This is okay. We're going to go. This is 11th place. Matthew Robinson. I feel like this team is very so okay. It's half. CJ
Oh, that is Scarf Miraidon. Oh my god.
That's
exactly. Like, it's kind
or
of
Koraidon, I mean. Yeah, no,
like
I ran this at a local like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, wow, this is so bad.
It's outrage.
Yeah,
it is very spicy, but the problem is it's really bad because it loses to Insane.
Yeah, I was going to say like there's those like really like hot sauces, like the stuff that Nishant drank themselves. Like those are really spicy. Didn't mean that they actually tasted good.
Yeah, like that was always my issue with it, is on teams where there is a Koraidon for the most part is going to be one of your main ways of beating Incineroar, and that's very same with this team. Obviously, it's Fairy Cali Shadow, so it's a little bit better into Insane, like you can get your Draining Kisses off onto it. But like just having it so your Koraidon can just be faked out, you need to play a lot more willing to risk everything on a given play with Scarf Koraidon.
Yeah.
That's my biggest issue with it.
Yeah. I feel like if you replace Rilla with like an Indeedee, or you have like a Fernaroth on the team, I feel like you can probably get away with it a little bit more.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, when 2/3 of your team does nothing into Insane,
exactly,
like, that can be an issue. And one of the 2 Pokemon, it's more like you have like 4.5 Pokemon, because you need to commit the Terra Fairy, you need to get the Nasty Plot boost for the Draining Kiss to start like actually doing anything into it, and they can knock you off. So like you have to commit Terra, which makes your plays even more predictable for your opponent to just really punish you. So like worked for them is what I'll say.
I mean, I'm happy it worked for them. I mean, like the Koraidon on this team is sort of just like, it's like a Scarf Urshifu. Like this is, you just took like a Reg G team with Scarf Urshi and you just turned it into a Koraidon. So like I kind of understand it from that side of things, but it's very interesting. I'm happy it did well. I just don't totally understand it.
Yeah. Moving on to 12th place, Lorenzo Cellini with another look at the Zama CSR team. Again, I feel like this person is definitely like in Reg G, they were like a CSR main. Because you have
absolutely,
Clefairy double fake out, and a Tailwind Setter and Iron Jugulus, which is not a very common Tailwind Setter in this format, but it makes a lot of sense. It can really help you in the mirror match by having a Pokemon that's super fast with a Quark Drive boost that sets Tailwind, that can spam Snarls, and also really hit it with the Dark Pulses, like into opposing CSR.
I'm super interested to know if Dark Pulse was like useful or not, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, Dark Pulse feels so unnecessary on this team. Like if you have Snarl knockoff already, it feels like you don't really need Dark Pulse. But like I would love to hear if it did them any good, especially because like it feels like you're missing not having Hurricane.
I was going to say, I think the only thing like what you said missing there, I think on a team like this, like going for that just automatic hit, like, or that guaranteed hit, is probably the thought process that I would have.
Makes sense.
Is I don't want to lose a game because my Dark Pulse, when my Hurricane misses something, and like the Dark Pulse can at least say, okay, I can leave this with this Jugulus, into the mirror, I can have a really, really, really good matchup, and I have a very safe button to click that is either going to force their Terra, and I can make a super aggressive play into them, or like even just force a switch or whatever. One of the other things I think is really interesting on this team is the fact that there's no protecting the Zamazenta. This is Imprison.
Shout out to Imprison Zama.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think like it's, of course, probably really helps in the mirror, but even more than that, it's just stopping other wide guard from being used, so your Calyrex can go and click the funny button up to 8 times.
Yeah, I ran Wide Guard or the Imprisoned Zama for a little while, and I'll be honest, the thing that I found most useful about it was imprisoning Protect. It wasn't even the wide guard. It was stopping them from ever clicking protect. So I was running it over heavy slam. And I found it significantly more useful. So I'm imagining that their use of Imprison on this team is sort of just like a last-ditch thing. It's, am I against another team that has wide guard, and am I fucked if I don't click this? I think that's probably the only time they're realistically hitting that, which I think is fine, because this team's CSR matchup doesn't look that bad. You have an AV Incin, 2 Dark types, a Clefairy. Like, you have a lot that can deal with it.
AV Rilla.
Yeah.
But, like, you
sorry,
have an
did
Incin.
I say something else?
You said AV Incin.
Sorry, I blacked
combine
out.
The two. You combine the two, but yeah, like, you have, again, your own CSR, the Jugs, Incin, AV Rilla. Like, you have a lot of hate into this Mon. Even the Clefairy, with the Follow Me, is really great with this. Like, you can click heavy slam into like opposing Terra Fairy, Calyrex, and they like can't safely click Psychic into you. And if they, there's a lot of things that they can do. You can make your opponent have to go through their mind games, with like the Clefairy.
Yeah, I think Taunt on Jugulus is really cool too.
Yeah.
And a helping hand Incin. Big shout out there.
Yep,
yeah.
Helping. Yeah, it's like giving your Pokemon moves to click when there really isn't other things for them to do is really good.
It's so much fun.
Fast Taunt, I feel like, fast non-prankster Taunt always feels really, really powerful. Especially because like your only Trick Room matchup really outside of this Taunt is like the After You on Clefairy. So like this team doesn't like playing when the speeds are reversed, so Iron Jugulus is able to just stop that from happening with the super speedy Taunt that can't be blocked by going Terra Dark. Okay, the next team. This is a team that screams straight to rehab.
I low-key would run this. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm happy.
I think I'm gonna bring this to the Invitational.
Don't.
So I said what I said. This is Takuto Nodohara, who again finished in 13th place.
Actually, fuck it, bring it. That'll be great for me.
Seeing both Clefairy and Grim on the same team,
it feels wrong.
It does.
Can I say it? It feels wrong.
Yeah,
I think having 2 fairy types that are both sit there and like don't do much bots. I think having 2 of those on the same team, to me that feels really bad. Like, I love Clefairy, I love using it, and the whole point of it is that it's a sit there do nothing kind of fella. But if two of the fuckers on your team are sit there do nothing fellas, what are the rest of the guys doing?
I'll even take it a step further. It's like, I mean, I know Incin's always doing something, but like, especially not once the item's knocked off, the taunt gets off. How much is it really doing? Like, there definitely are 3 Pokemon on this team, or maybe if you want to say Incin, it's more like 2.5. Have that like island syndrome where you just get rid of everything around it, and you're like, oh wait, shit. But between the Incin, Clefairy, and Grim, you have 2 moves that do damage.
Yeah.
It's not a lot.
Yeah.
And so, like, you need
3 if you count Fake Out.
Oh, yeah, 3 if you count Fake Out,
Yeah.
but only once.
True.
So you really need the Calyrex, the Groudon, and the Volcarona to, pick up the pace. And I think with Groudon, like, the big issue has just really been it doesn't do enough. Just like you feel like you need a boost somewhere. The P-Blade is amazing because we do play in a Miraidon meta, so having a move that can immediately delete Miraidon, along with like Incin, I believe it probably would come close to deleting Volcarona. That's really cool if you hit. And also you're eating a Draco Meteor, and
then just really to top it off, you're running Will-O-Wisp. Like,
that's heat. No, that's heat.
It's shice, but it's just another move that can miss. It's like,
I think the thing is, it's like, I think if you're just going and saying I'm running Groudon, once you finish putting the clown makeup and wig on,
you're saying fuck it, 85%'s out the ass.
Exactly. Like, you're already running Groudon, why not continue to gamble? Like,
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, like, what was it? I was just in Albany last Sunday, so
I'm so
like,
sorry.
the gambling rehab center's like right there. Just take a drive down I-90, the Mass Pike, right into New York.
Yeah.
And spend a nice month getting all that out of your system.
yeah. Cloak Volcarona is hot, though.
Yeah, the Cloak Volcarona, I do like Cloak Volcarona.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting we're seeing some running that Giga Drain, some running Struggle. The fact that this is Terra Fire, I think that's maybe a mistake. Because that doesn't really strike me as anything that I would merit on Volcarona personally. But if the flamethrower damage is that significant, then I guess maybe that's something.
I was thinking as well, because you have the sun, like, that's my thought process, where you go, like, Terrafire, like, get your Quiver Dance up, Terrafire, Terrafire, +1 with the sun up, you're probably hitting a lot, like, your multipliers are big enough where you're probably doing enough damage where it's worth it. Where on the other sets where we've seen Volcarona, or the other teams we've seen Volcarona, you don't have that 50% boost to your stab damage, with, like, there's no sun on those teams, so it probably isn't worth also trying to get that Terra to make it go even further. So that would be my take on why it's there.
Yeah.
Again, do I think this team is good? Like, in concept, like, technically, it's not the worst thing I've seen, but, like, I think it's... You do have a lot of really good Pokemon individually that probably do better elsewhere, and then you also have a Groudon.
Yeah.
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 It's a team of a bunch of things that I kind of look at and I go, eh.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be our second to last team, because I just saw 17th place, and there's no way we're not talking about 17th place.
Yeah.
Because we are running, again, covering 3 tournaments, jumping around things, we are running a little late. But we already brought up Nicola's team. This has pretty much been, like, the only thing he's been running, or, like, just, like, Miraidon hyper offense with Torn, Sneasler, and Blood Moon Ursaluna. Again, like, I'm a big fan, because, you know, this buddy here, but, like, I also, it's, like, very weird where it's, like, I always loved Blood Moon for Rig, and in other formats, like Reg I, for example, you've been able to play it very, like, slow and balancy. Even, like, all different ways you can play it in Regulation H. But in Reg, in these restricted formats, it feels like the only way you can play it is, like, on this sort of Tailwind hyper offense, because they had to make Blood Moon Ursaluna 52 speed. So you always will, you always are slower than Hisuian Ursaluna, CIR, of course, Amoonguss, all of those Pokemon in Trick Room, so you actually can't play Ursaluna in Trick Room, or at least Blood Moon. So it's got to be, like, a Tailwind bot.
Yeah, and two very interesting things that I want to shout out about this team real quick is the Terra on Torn. Being Terra Water is always very interesting to me, because we saw a Terra Dragon Torn earlier as well. Both of those as Terras that maintain one of the weaknesses that you already have on Torn. So it's making me try to look at, like, the other things the Torn would be fighting against. I'm imagining this Torn is mostly just for the Swordfish matchup to some extent. Yeah. So I'm interested to sort of think about that. But then the speed on the Blood Moon, from watching the game against Mishael earlier, in Tailwind, the Ursaluna Blood Moon outsped the Landorus, but undersped the Sash Urshi. And he said that he was adamant Sash Urshi. So it's somewhere between 149, and then I believe that he was, like, somewhere in, like, the 130s on Lando. So it's interesting that it's sort of landing in that area there, because normally when I'm thinking of Ursaluna Blood Moon in a restricted meta, I'm thinking of the one that's just running Timid Max 112 to be able to outspeed the CSR. But I guess this team's CSR matchup is, like, so fine on paper, because you have 2 normal types, a Terra Dark Sneasler, Wide Guard on Zama, you have Tailwind, like, you have a lot of things that can deal with it. So I think it's interesting that you're not investing that speed in Ursaluna Blood Moon. I'm interested to see what they are investing the speed in.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, and I think this is the ethical Sneasler, because there's no Dire Claw on it.
God bless.
So it's fine. Like, you're allowed to do this. And we saw this when we got back into Reg I, when people were like, because we didn't realize Sneasler, unless your name's Liam, you didn't realize Sneasler was a good Pokemon until Regulation H.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, okay, let's try this again using Miraidon, and it was like, oh, this was like neat for a week, and we're like,
unless your name is a Nielsen, then you kept running it for the entirety of Reg G, and now the entirety of this format. Like, they love this Pokemon.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just like iterations of this 6, and I think the conversation with this team, and at least this player, is the dichotomy of, yes, you know your matchups better than almost everyone else because you've been playing this team so much. But on the other end of it, it's like you've pretty much married yourself to running Ursaluna, Blood Moon, and Sneasler, and Miraidon, because that's the best restricted to go with those 2 Pokemon. And it's like, you aren't getting anything else, like, you aren't adjusting to anything, and you can get to a point where it's like, you can know all the matchups, but your team just doesn't have, like, that last bit of juice. And if you're not willing to try to change one of these Pokemon, then you're going to miss out on being able to fully maximize it. And so, like, I think, like, that's like the whole thing where it's like, know your matchups, but also be willing to work with something that isn't what you know. It is kind of like what I'm getting with this.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
The last team, 17th place, which missed cut. And this is our unofficial Carter's Corner.
Hell yeah.
This team is just saying to me, just shout out ESM. Michael Zhang, I played him at Milwaukee. He was running Koraidon, Ho-Oh, Rhydon, and he had Toxapex on the team as well. And oh my god, I played against him, and I said after, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I was supposed to do about this. Like, my team didn't have a matchup into his, but he was like, yeah, that's kind of like the whole purpose of, like, the team, was I just wanted to have, like, 1 to 2 pieces that kind of just blank out a bunch of different restricteds and just say to people, good luck. And then I think this team is kind of taking, like, a similar bent, where they're like, oh, Koraidon Ho-Oh, my Miraidon matchup's pretty shit. I'm gonna run a Pokemon that's just a hard counter for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
not much else to say. It's like there's a Rhydon, really it beats Miraidon. You got a Ho-Oh and a Koraidon. They're both mons that didn't really get as high of usage in general. Ho-Oh especially. I'm pretty sure this is the only one in day 2.
I believe so, yes.
So it's like, just looking at all of this, you're like, wow, this is a team of like the freaks and geeks, but like they made it work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things with Ho-Oh, at least in the Sun, is that like you actually do damage with Sacred Fire.
Yeah.
Because Ho-Oh overall is like very, very bulky, even though it does have a really... Actually, what is Ho-Oh's physical attack stat?
Can I guess?
Give me a second.
The special attack stat, I thought it was 90, right?
A physical attack stat.
Oh, physical attack is 130, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, what's your guess, CJ?
125.
It's 130. Which, like, 130 for...
Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything because I knew it. That was kind of BM, but...
But, like, the thing is, it's, like, 130 for...
Shout out 154 Spit F, baby.
Yes. But, like, 130 for, like, a Gen 2 Pokemon. Like, yeah, Gen 2, like, 130 was a massive stat.
Yeah.
Now it's, like... Yeah. Okay,
that's
great.
130 is still, like, really good. The problem is
really
just Ho-Oh's not.
But, like, more so it's, like, they'll give Ho-Oh getting 130 in, like, 1999 when Gold and Silver came out in Japan. Like, 130 was, like, oh my god. Now, like, I mean, we'll just sort by attack stats.
Now we got guys like Veluza creeping up on that with, like, what the fuck is a Veluza, you know?
Yeah, like, what the fuck is a Tingus Pingus?
Yeah, for sure, man. That's totally what I said.
Yeah, but, like...
So, yeah, like, but Ice Rider at, like, 160.
To prove the point.
Like,
also, shout out Rhydon, also 130 attack, by the way.
Yeah, but, like, but then you have, you know, like, Rampardos with 165. I know it's, again, just a Rampardos, but, or, like, again, just normal Pokemon. Baxcalibur's 145.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like the 140 for Rhyperior and Conk.
But those
Iron
guys
Hands,
don't have 145 base spin F. Woo!
Yeah. Like Crabominable has more. Crabominable has a 132 base attack stat, and Cleavor has a 135. So like I think the whole idea of it was it's a really good special attack stat. It also is like at a point where it just isn't special when you look at the stats of the other restricted Pokemon and the bonuses that you can get.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, give me a second. I'm going to try to stop sharing my
definitely. I think the big sort of like overarching thing that we saw comparing this VR to last VR is not a lot of creativity coming out of this one, I think, as a whole. Or maybe not creativity, but not a lot of new developments coming out of this tournament. And I think that's because we're really hitting the chopping block of there is just over a month left until Worlds. All of these players are saying, I got to save my best techs to really get me to the finals of Worlds. And I wish everybody the best of luck in their endeavors there. I'm incredibly excited to see what is going to be coming out of Worlds, what new developments we'll see. And I cannot wait.
Yeah. No, it's the last, and I think that is the thing where it's like, I think we also had locals. Everyone else would still be willing to at least push the format a little more. But it's like when call it 99% of the player base and probably more, like a lot more, maybe like 99.95% of the player base just has nothing really to play for besides just the love of the game. And at this point, like, people are kind of sick of the restricted formats. They want to go back to something smaller. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited to go a little more into VGC 18 is because, like, it's a lower power format. Sure. I mean, yes and no. There's Mega Pokemon, but again, Mega
Pokemon are not Miraidon.
No, they aren't
exactly.
Like, what was it? I think the first game I played, I'm like, wow. I just played it like it was I got my belly drum up on a Azumarill and I'm like, wow, I don't have to worry about this Incin or this Landorus turning into like a water type or a grass type. I can just safely go and click Aqua Jet into them, and there's also I was in like a position where, like, I can click Protect here and there's not like a dumb bear that's going to smash me in my jaw for clicking Protect.
Yeah, exactly.
So like there's like some dumb horse that's going to outspeed everything and click just blow me up both my Pokemon for no reason. So like stuff like that. I'm like, I kind of like not.
It changes the dynamic of the game very significantly, and it's very refreshing to go back to.
Yeah, like honestly, what was one of the last locals I went to, we did like Reg H again, and I mean, towards the end of Reg H, I was like, oh, God, I can't do Sneasler Slop anymore. Like, I made sure, like, the team I ended up bringing, like, I'm not bringing Sneasler. I can't do it. I don't want to play it myself. And I'm like, this is, like, still pretty high power, but I'm like, this is fun. Like, I can make certain plays that, in a lot of other, like in the last 8 months or so, we really haven't been able to do because of the existence of these insanely like warping Pokemon.
Definitely.
Yeah. You can run berries.
Sure.
That's very
you can
exciting.
run berries too.
Yeah.
Big shout out Citrus, my goat. Or if you're going back and playing 2018, the pinch berries, baby, 50% healing.
Like, which is so nasty. Yeah. I guess
it's so funny that going into Gen 7, Game Freak was like, let's make these 50% healing and activate at 33%. And then going into Gen 8, they were like, my bad.
Guys.
My bad.
That was the other thing, like I will say I almost lost the game because I'm like, just that math, I'm like, I know this exists, but actually seeing it. So I got the like a Tapu Fini down to like 20%. I'm like, oh yeah, I pick it up right now with this play rough. And then I just see, I'm like, oh no, I have to do another turn of this at least? Like, I have to hit my moves? This is bad.
My Pokemon healed back up to full? Sorry? What?
The pinch berries with like Bellydrum Snorlax and like Gluttony Recycle, like that's so nasty. That's so nasty.
I went up against I went up against a Snorlax, and I was like, okay, I know what it's going to do, and still, it's like, I mean, I got them because like I was able to just taunt the Cresselia, and luckily didn't have mental herb. That's the other thing. Like going like CTS, it's always in the back of my mind. Like
random mental herbs.
Yes,
Yep.
like random mental herbs going to make me lose. But like I can just stop the trick room from going up, and then like I just hit this thing right, and that's what I did. I also belly drummed, and my belly drum Pokemon was faster than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yippee!
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to actually we might have an episode later this month talking about doing a deeper dive into VGC 18, whether on the pod proper or maybe bringing on another guest who was supposed to be on this episode as well, but might be on later in the month. Who can say? We don't know what I actually don't know what the schedule is for any of our pods, or even if we want to be on the next two. To be quite honest.
Wow, that's awesome. You really know what you're doing, man.
I honestly like this is like a little behind the curtains, and I think our listeners know we like figure shit out like literally like as it goes, because Carter's work schedule just changes week over week, and again, Carl as a kid. So yeah, there's times where it's like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm in the group chat like, hey, who wants to talk like now? Pretty much. It's like
let's talk about something fucking random. Let's get it done.
Yeah. No, it's like the pod, the NAIC coverage with Junie and Chris that we did. I literally texted them like, hey, what are you doing? Awesome. Are you like, can you go in 5 minutes? Like, I'm turning my computer on to send you the link right now. And it just works.
Yeah.
That is the Littleroot Lessons way. And honestly, it was awesome to have both of you on. This was really, really fun. Let the listeners know where you can be found. So we'll go with Divas first. CJ, where can you be found?
Number one, Calvin is also a diva. You can find me on Twitter. I am Psychic Siege, so Psychic CEEJ, because we're in our rebrand phase now. I am your favorite VGC player's oomph, probably. And I also host pretty regular league sessions. If you're in the like Massachusetts, Rhode Island area, I host league sessions at Pegasus Collectibles in Bellingham. So if we have events on the locator, definitely come check it out. And I think that's all I have to plug. Please follow me on Twitter.
I go to those league sessions. I actually don't think I've missed a single one, so you can't hold that over me. Calvin, where can the people find you?
Yeah, hi. You can find me on x.com, the everything app, as at MogoVGC, MogoVGC. VGC is spelled VGC. So
Wait, can you spell it one more time?
Yeah, so it's VEEGEECEE.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Right.
Just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
And you can find me on Twitch at Dr. Mogo. I'm not a doctor. Don't ask me for professional advice. But I'll give it to you anyways, unsolicited. And I play some mid-ass fucking Pokemon, so come check it out. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Follow Calvin on Twitter and then tweet at them to actually use their Twitch channel.
Yeah, I do it occasionally, but I'm not as good at it as I should be.
Yeah. And you can, of course, you can find us on Blue Sky at Littleroot Lessons. You can find Carl and Carter at Musical and at Mr. Missouri 25, respectfully. You can find me on Blue Sky at Rose Tinted Cheeks. That's Rose with an H in it, like my name. You can watch the podcast on YouTube at the Littleroot Lessons channel, and also on all podcatchers, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we do have the video component as well on our Spotify. So if you want to do the podcast and video on Spotify instead of doing it on YouTube, you can do that there. It's really neat as well. You can see our beautiful faces. You can see my turtle, who is currently sunbathing and usually makes noise during the podcast, or just breaks things because she can. We do our weekly videos and podcasts every Monday, along with our other projects. Carter is probably going to get back to streaming some Nuzlocke content soon. Probably not Crystal Kaizo, because I learned today that the only person to beat Crystal Kaizo told Carter, don't do it. It's not worth it. And when the only person to do it says you shouldn't, you probably shouldn't. And yeah, we have a lot of other fun stuff coming up during the summer as we lead up into Worlds and hopefully finding out a very fun fall format for the 25-26 format. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great week.